Hello everyone, welcome to Concept Free Learning. So today we are here to discuss the previous year NEET questions on sexual reproduction in flowering plants. So this is the part 3 video. So moving on to the questions. Transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of another flower of the same plant is called xenogamy, gatenogamy, karyogamy and autogamy. So by definition, pollen grain from the anther to the stigma of another flower of the same plant, that is of the same species, the same plant, but the pollen grain transfer is through different flowers. So this by definition is gatenogamy. So gatenogamy is the process of transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of another flower of the same plant. Example is maize. So autogamy, gametogamy and karyogamy refers to other methods of pollination in which there is either self-pollination or into different set of population of plants. So moving on to the next question. When pollinated flowers are small, brightly colored, producing large number of pollen grains, are small, producing large number of dry pollen grains, are large, producing abundant nectar and pollen grains, small, producing nectar and dry pollen. So in case of wind pollination, there is no need for any rewards or attractants. No rewards or attractants. So these are not needed, because only in entomophily, when there is need for a small organism to do the pollination, there is need for all this attractants and rewardants. So there is no need for brightly colored flowers or any other nectar. So the first option can be ruled out. Producing large number of dry pollen grains. Yes, it has to be small, and because when wind is carrying it has to be light and it has to be dry, because if it is wet it will get stuck to other surfaces than in the necessary needed flower. Large producing abundant nectar and pollen. No, if it is abundant nectar producing, then it has to be entomophily. So wind production does not need any such rewards. Small producing nectar and dry pollen. So here also producing nectar, so this is also rejected. So it has to be small, producing large number of dry pollen grains. So pollination by wind is called anemophily. Wind pollinated flowers are small in size, producing large number of dry pollen grains. Pollen grains are small, dry and light in weight. Grasses are anemophilous plants. So the solution is that. So moving on to the next question. Unisexuality of flower prevents autogamy but not gatenogamy. Both gatenogamy and xenogamy. Gatenogamy but not xenogamy. Autogamy and gatenogamy. So we know the statement that unisexuality of plants prevents both autogamy and gatenogamy. So this is a very tricky question, but here they have been given the unisexuality of flowers. So when a flower is unisexual, that is it has only male or female but never the both, the plant need not be unisexual and the plant can be bisexual, that is it has flowers individually that has male or female. So it will definitely prevent autogamy but not gatenogamy. If the flower is unisexual, it can only prevent gatenogamy, but it will assure autogamy. But if the plant is unisexual, it will ensure both prevention of autogamy and gatenogamy. So let's look at the solution. Unisexuality of plants prevents autogamy but not gatenogamy. In self-fertilization, the male and female gametes are derived from the same individual. Among plants, self-fertilization, also called autogamy, is common in many cultivated species, example wheat and oats. However, self-fertilization is a form of inbreeding and does not allow for the mixing of genetic material. If it occurs over a number of generations, the offsprings become less vigorous and produce less results from the cross-fertilization than in the cross-fertilization. That is, this results in inbreeding depression. Okay, that is what has been stated. So autogamy but not gatenogamy. So moving on to the next question. What does filiform apparatus do at the entrance into the ovule? It helps in entry of pollen into the synergid. It prevents entry of more than one pollen tube into the embryo sac. It brings about the opening of pollen tube. It guides pollen tube from the synergid to the egg. So filiform apparatus is basically present in the synergids, and it is a finger-like projection. So what it does is it moves, it helps in the entry of pollen tube into the synergid. So let's look at the solution. Filiform apparatus helps in the entry of pollen tube into the synergid in the ovule. Filiform apparatus is in form of finger-like projections comprising a core of microfibrils. It will basically contain microfibrils. These microfibrils will tend to push, that is help the movement of pollen tube into the ovule. The filiform apparatus resembles transfer cells meant for short distance movement of metabolites. The filiform apparatus is responsible for absorption of food from the nucleus. So this is also being compared to a local small cell that helps in movement of metabolites. So moving on to the next question. Which one of the following is surrounded by a Callus wall? Option A, a male gamete. Option B, egg. Option C, pollen grain. Option D, microspore mother cell. So this is a known fact. The callus is occurring inner to the cell wall. It is present close to the microspore mother cell, which is NMC, microspore mother cell. Let's look at the solution. So here we have the microspore mother cell, and then it is surrounded by Callus wall. Okay, so microspore mother cell is surrounded by Callus wall inner to the cell wall. So this is a known fact we have to remember. So moving on to the next question. Male gamete in angiogerms is formed by the division of generative cell, vegetative cell, microspore mother cell, microspore. So let's look at the stages of formation. So here we have the stages, and look at the final stage, which is most important. We have the vegetative cell and the generative cell. So from the basic division starts from microspore mother cell, and then there occurs to vegetative cell and generative cell. So the vegetative cell is generally for nutrition. It contains the nutrition part. Generative cell only contains the male gamete. So for the necessary survival of this male gamete, the vegetative cell is necessary. So the generative cell only contains the male gamete, and hence it is formed by division of the generative cell. So generative cell, which is a cell of the male gametophyte or pollen grain in seed plants, that divides to give rise directly or indirectly to two sperms. Okay, so moving on to the next question. The arrangement of nuclei in normal embryo sac in dicot plants is 3 plus 2 plus 3, 2 plus 3 plus 3, 3 plus 2, 3 plus 3 plus 2, and 2 plus 4 plus 2. So let's look at the embryo sac so that we can configure the orientation of nuclei. So this is the matured embryo sac, and then we have the chalazal and the micropylar and the cells in the middle. So we have three cells here in the antipodals, and we have the two polar nuclei, and then we have the three cells in the synergids. So it is 3 plus 2 plus 3. So we can also remember that there are 8 nuclei and 7 cells. So this is also very important to remember. There are 8 nuclei and 7 cells here. So the orientation is 3 plus 2 plus 3. So in dicot plant, general arrangement of nuclei in the embryo sac is about 3 nuclei in the 3 cells of egg apparatus, 1 egg cell and 2 synergids at micropolar end, and 2 polar nuclei in almost middle region, and 3 nuclei in form of antipodals at the distal end from micropyle towards the nucleus. So nucellus. So the total nuclei is 3 plus 2 plus 3. So moving on to the next question. What would be the number of chromosomes in cells of alluron layer with a plant species with 8 chromosomes in the synergids? So synergids are basically haploid, and it contains 8 chromosomes. So the alluron layer is basically an endospermal layer and it is 3n in number, that is triploid. So here it is haploid, so it is n and here it is 3n. So you have to remember allurone is 3n. So the basic thing is that it contains 3 into n. So which will be 3 into 8, there will be 24 chromosomes. So among this there will be 24 chromosomes. So allurone layer is the layer formed by endospermic tissue in the members of Gamete, that is grass family, wheat, rice, maize, etc. Obviously it will have a triploid tissue. So if synergids have 8 number of chromosomes that are haploid, then the allurone must contain 24, which is 8 into 3. So moving on to the next question. Through which cell of embryo sac does the pollen tube enter into the embryo sac? So it is egg cell, persistent synergid, degenerated synergid, and central cell. So let's look at the solution. So after entering the ovule, the pollen tube is attracted towards the micropilar end of the embryo sac. The attractants are secreted by the synergids or the help cells. So here also we have the Filiform Apparatus that has microfibrils, as we told before in previous few questions in our videos, that will help in movement of pollen tube into the embryo sac. So the pollen tube pierces one of the two synergids and bursts it. The synergid is simultaneously destroyed. So it is by degeneration of synergids that the pollen tube enters it. So moving on to the next question. Which one of the following represents an ovule where the embryo sac becomes horseshoe shaped and the funiculus and the micropyle are close to each other? So is it amphitropous or cercinotropous or atropous or anthropous? So let's look at the solution. So the question has been interchanged. So here we have the different modes of tropy, that is movement. Okay, so the movement, so that there will be comfort in the pollen tube movement. So here we have the hemianotropous. So here there is a right angle movement of the nucellus and the embryo sac. And in cercinotropous, the funicle is large and coiled around the ovule. So here we have a coiled appearance here. And in amphitropous, both body of ovule and embryo sac are curved. So here in amphitropous, so both are curved. But in camelotropous, the embryo sac is straight, the body is tilted. Okay, so this is what refers to the movements of the embryo sac. So the answer is amphitropous, where there is right angle, that is horseshoe shape movement or right angle movement here, that is it has been represented here. So moving on to the next question. So the solution, I'll read it over again. In camelotropous ovule, the body is curved but the embryo sac is straight, that is in capsula. So here we have seen the camelotropous movement. In anotropous, the body of ovule is inverted. So here in anotropous, the body is totally inverted and gets fused with the funiculus. Here it gets fused with the funiculus. And in an orthotropous condition, the body of ovule lies straight and upright over the funicle. So in orthotropous, it is mostly occurring in the angiosperm. So answer is, so the example is Papyraceae and Pollinaceae. So it is the pepper family, Papyraceae. So it is hemitropous when there is right angle movement. So the next question. In Ogammy, the fertilization involves a small non-motile female gamete and a large motile male gamete, a large non-motile female gamete and a small motile male gamete, a large non-motile female gamete and a small non-motile male gamete, a large motile female gamete and a small non-motile male. So in Ogammy, the orientation and the morphology of both the gametes are different. So the male is generally small and motile, and the female is generally large and non-motile. So let's look for an option which says that a large non-motile female gamete and a small motile male gamete. So the option is B. So in Ogammy, male and female gametes are morphologically as well as physiologically different. Female gametes are large and non-motile, and the male gametes are small but motile. So the same question has been repeated again. An ovule which becomes curved so that the nucellus and the embryo sac lie at right angle to each other is hemitropous, camellotropous, anotropous, and orthotropous. So here we know that it is right angle and so hemitropous. So this is the moment of hemitropy, that is in right angle. There is right angle. In flowering plants, the archisporium gives rise to only tapetum and sporogenous cells, only the wall of the sporangium, both wall and sporangious cells, the wall and the tapetum. So the archisporium basically gives rise to the primary parietal cell, primary parietal layer, and also a primary sporogenous layer. So there is periclinal division here. So there is transverse cellular division, and so the primary parietal layer further develops and forms the tapetum, and the sporogenous tissue also forms various layers and forms the sporogenous cells. So it forms both the wall and the sporogenous cells. So in flowering plants, the archisporium cells undergo periclinal division to form outer primary parietal cells and inner sporogenous cells. So the primary parietal wall, after few more periclinal divisions, form another wall, and the sporogenous cells gives rise to sporogenous tissue. So both wall and sporogenous cells are formed from the archisporium. Thank you for watching Concept Tree Learning.